Hello, everyone, and welcome to the virtual Alumni Volunteer Summit student panel. We are a diverse group of students with different interests, majors, concentrations, and whatnot, and we're so happy to be here today. I'll start by introducing myself, and then my friends up here can tell you a little about themselves as well. So my name is Kameron Dunbar. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and I major in politics with a minor in rhetoric and composition and a concentration in peace and conflict studies. I have the pleasure of serving as the student representative on the Alumni Leadership Council, representing the class of 2019. So Juan.
Hello, I'm Juan Contreras. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I'm a third year. I use he, him, his. I study biology and environmental studies, and I minor in Jewish studies and French.
Hi, my name is Meg Parker. I am a third year as well. I use she, her. I'm a double major in history and politics with a double minor in gender, sexuality, and feminist studies and comparative American studies.
Hi, my name is Nicolas Randrianarivelo. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I use he, him, or they, them pronouns. And I'm a fourth year vocal performance major in the conservatory.
Awesome. So one of the great parts about this panel is that the questions we'll be answering were crowdsourced from alumni, and so we'll just jump right into them. So the first question for everyone is, think one person can change the world.
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
So I actually have a problem with that. Although one person can change the world, I think it takes a strong support network of a group of people to make substantial long-term change, especially at an institution that is as broad as Oberlin, and thinking structurally at the society in which we're all existing in. One person can make an influence, but I think change is bigger than a quote or a couple of protests. It's a lot of times about thinking about systems and how we can work together to achieve that change, because we're all coming to that possibility with different perspectives and experiences.
Yeah, I actually really like this quote a lot. I have it on a T-shirt, on an Oberlin shirt, and I totally get the idea that, to make great change is really a community effort, right? But I think the one great part about this quote, think one person can change the world, is that I think it empowers the individual, and it gives us a sense of agency to like do our will and to do well. And so, like, when I think one person can change the world, it means that like one person can make a difference. And I think when people lose sight of that is when they become discouraged. So I agree with Meg, but I also really love the quote.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we can move on to our next question. Juan.
Sure. What is the difference you want to make in the world? I can start. So I care a lot about the environment and I guess life and stuff like that. I'm really into science. This past summer, I spent a lot of time in Puerto Rico working with bats. And I think my goal, or like what I'd like to do in helping the world, would be working with diseases and trying to help communities that don't have a lot of access to resources to combat diseases. And I think personally I want to work on it in a nature level, go out in the forest and try to figure things out and see what good I can do. But yeah.
I think for me, coming in as a conservatory student, I came in very hyper-focused and one-track minded on what I wanted in life, and that was to be, one of the best opera singers in the world. But I think in my tenure here at Oberlin, that has since changed, because I see that, for me, this career path was a little too self-serving to just be doing this. And so I think that definitely I want to reach a point in life where I have enough capital to assist those who marginalized people as well. And help people who not necessarily had the same opportunities that I had coming here. But yeah.
I think if there's one difference I really want to make, it's to be able to give a voice to people who often aren't allowed to speak or who don't have their voices amplified commonly. I think that's part of the reason I joined The Grape as a staff writer, because I like the idea of working for an alternative student publication. But I think the alternative part kicks in the idea of giving space to groups and orgs and causes that you might not even see in the review, or you might not see in other commonly accepted or commonly read publications. And so I don't know if that will take form in the form of being a journalist or, working in communications or working in policy, which I'm also interested in, but I really want to help amplify the voices of others.
I agree.
So I'm from Portland, Maine, which, as you may or may not know, is the largest city in my state. And I spent one of my winter terms interning for my congresswoman in D.C., another one of my winter terms interning with United Way in Greater Portland. And I think that I can do the most good in Maine, in my home state. There's a lot of things that we're facing that are a microcosm of this country, like immigration, race relations, healthcare, the opioid crisis. And I think that I'm currently on the track to use my Oberlin education to help people in my state who are often overlooked or disenfranchised in a wide sense of that term. There's a lot we can do to help the economy in Maine and a lot of potential, but a lot of times ideas don't leave Maine or come from out of state. So I'm using this opportunity to spend 4 years outside of Maine to learn different ideas and hear new perspectives and return that to Maine and the people that are living there who mean the most to me.
So we're excited to have another student join us, especially our current Student Senate Chair, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Thanks, Kim. My name is Thobeka Mnisi. I'm a fourth-year politics major with an international studies concentration and a rhetoric and composition minor. I'm from South Africa originally, and I'm really excited to be here. I'm currently the chair of Senate, as Kim just said, and I just work on campus a lot with education outreach programs.
Awesome. So I think, Nick, you had a question for us?
Yes, I did. So my question is, what's one thing that gives you hope? And I'd have to say the future gives me a lot of hope, especially being here at Oberlin and seeing who's going to be growing up with me and coming up into this world, who's going to be the next generation that's going to be influencing change. I think the great thing about a lot of Oberlin students is the passion that you see in their hearts and their minds and their eyes, and like the vigor in which they believe in what they believe in and how much they'll fight for what they believe in. And, millennials get a lot of flack for being lazy, entitled, buying $6 coffees and avocado toast. Avocado toast. But I think it's much bigger than that. The era of complacency is over, and I think our generation is a generation of game changers, I believe. But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think one thing that gives me hope is knowing that, I'm in this fight, in this drive with other people, and folks, my friends, my mom, my family, all sorts of people I meet really empower me to be my best self and to just know that I have a support network and that there are other people who care about these issues. Like you said, Nick, we are the generation that wants to make change just as other generations have, and we're still working that out, and it's messy and it's imperfect, and sometimes we end up in the New Yorker about it, but we're still committed, and at the end of the day, we just want what's best for our world and for our communities and for all people to really be successful and thrive.
I mean, I would follow up and bounce off on both of that because I agree with that. I think another thing that gives me hope is seeing people try, because we do get a lot of flack for not being good enough or for not trying enough or for not caring enough about non-trivial things as millennials. But I see all my peers all the time just strive to make the world more just. Every day I see people try. And that gives me so much hope because I've seen Oberlin alumni and I know that it gets better after here. So I know that the trying gets us somewhere, and that gives me a lot of hope.
Did you want to answer that?
Yeah, I was going to give a dual answer. Something trivial is I actually really get hope from looking at pictures of dogs. It kind of just makes me feel better, thinking about puppies and cute things. Because some days are going to be really hard, and sometimes you wake up and your first thought is, oh my God, I can't believe I have to do this today, or that just happened last night. This healthcare bill, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to our country? But, thinking about the little things that can make you smile sort of gives me hope, because if you can find positivity on days that don't seem like they're the best, then that's a sense of small hope in itself. And also thinking on a deeper level, this is a minute sliver of what our generation will be and where we're headed. And if these 5 students are the future of my generation, then I can feel hopeful. Knowing that there's people in this world that care as much as I do, and are not going to give up, as Thobeka was saying about just trying, makes me feel hopeful.
I think not as cute as puppies, but first years, I think, give me a lot of hope. A lot of us have been working really closely with the new Peer Advising Leaders program at Oberlin, that's aimed to kind of assist first years in their transition and have like a group of people they feel comfortable working with. And I think just seeing the first years engaging with each other and kind of open to new ideas and open to new experiences has really pushed me, because I feel as I do my things here at Oberlin, sometimes stress gets to me and it can really pull you down. And I think the younger people at this school are always the ones that like remind me of what made me so engaged in the first place and what made me happy.
Wow. So similarly to that, what have you found at Oberlin that is different than what you expected?
Expected about Oberlin?
Yes. I mean, I can start. For me, it's really simple. Everything closes super early in town, and I just was not prepared for that. I come from Detroit, and it's a major city, so we have things that are open late night, 24/7. You can go out after like 11 p.m. and find lots of things to do, which you can do here, but I just was not expecting like all the restaurants, kind of all the shops to be done at midnight. But that's a small thing.
I didn't realize how fickle the weather was. Like today, I woke up and I like wore this outfit and these like leather sandals because I was like, it's a beautiful day outside. And then I'm in class and I look outside and I'm like, oh, it's raining right now. Oh, okay, cool. And then, yeah, the weather changes every 5 minutes in Ohio, but I kind of like it though because nothing ever stays exactly the same. But yeah.
I mean, I'm an international student, so everything was new to me and everything was surprising, but also not surprising because I didn't have anything that I was expecting when I came in. I was just open to experiencing it all. Mm-hmm. But I think the one thing that did surprise me was how not cold it is, because everybody hyped me up for the cold because I'm from South Africa in a really, really warm part of the country. So from like the beginning of my junior year when I said I was going to apply to Oberlin, like that's all everyone would talk to me about, like how I have to prepare myself for the cold. So I really hyped myself up and I got here and I was like, I was really disappointed my first winter. It wasn't enough snow and it wasn't cold enough and I was just like, why?
Should go to Chicago. Cold.
Oh, I didn't realize how flat it was going to be either.
It's super flat.
It's super flat. It's so flat. You can like look out for miles and see things. Yeah, and I was like, and when it snows a lot here too, and I was like, I would love to go sledding, but you know,
we could
go the Oberlin Hill.
Not Oberlin. Yeah. I was also surprised by how flat it is. So as I said, I'm from Maine, and we have like really dramatic mountains, and we have the highest mountain peak on a shoreline anywhere on the eastern seaboard of the Americas outside of Brazil. So I was really surprised by how flat it was. And I visited, but I didn't really think about it that much when I was here for a couple of days, which was shocking to me, but also beneficial when I wanted to start long distance running for fun, because there's no hills and I can just keep going for miles, which was helpful as I was building that endurance. The reason I actually started long distance running is because I'm a student athlete here at Oberlin. And that was something that I was expecting, but some of the terms of what it means to be a student athlete still surprised me despite the recruiting process. We're currently going through, I would say, a new era in the athletic department right now. There's a lot of things that are changing and it's becoming a little bit more rigorous, which I think is beneficial because we're recruiting a wide array of different student athletes at Oberlin, and we're investing in having good coaches and people who really know what they're talking about for their sport, which is a new learning opportunity. And I have gotten so much stronger, both physically and mentally, through this athletics program that I'm really grateful for, which I really wasn't expecting. I was kind of coming in thinking, oh, I play field hockey here and there. You know, I played club in high school, but now I'm playing every single day. I have a strength and conditioning coach. I'm learning more about myself and my body than I ever imagined. And yes, it is hard, but I'm in a place of fitness that I never imagined was possible for me.
I do think one of the academic surprises that I had, which is also a really pleasant surprise, was seeing how available the faculty is to students. I spent a semester at UCSB. I think I've spoken about this with some of you before I came here. And UCSB is, I mean, it's a very different institution from Oberlin. It has like over 25,000 students, I think. And so the style of teaching is very different from here. And the undergraduate program is not always prioritized. So faculty usually isn't available as much to undergrad students because they focus mainly on their graduate programs, which makes sense, but it is quite unfortunate. So when I was used to that, and it sort of worked for the time that I was there, and then I got here and I'm just like, so you mean like I can come to your office hours? Like I don't have to set up an appointment to come to office hours? Because there were some of my professors there who just didn't have office hours open to their undergrad students at all. You like had to have a really good reason to request office hours. So, and I mean, I really jumped on that and I used that. I go to office hours to at least one of my professor's office hours every week, and I've just had that as a rule for my first year because that's something that's incredibly amazing to me that we have available to us.
I think I was surprised by, I think coming in, I didn't expect this school to have a lot of things going on. I thought I was going to be studying, sleeping, and just doing that thing. I think mainly because that's how my brother was in college. But this past year, I worked with La Alianza Latinx as a secretary, and I would compile the weekly newsletter. And sometimes the newsletter would take me hours because there's just so many events that you would put on there. And I think that's really a really, really awesome thing about Oberlin is that every single day there's something you can do and something you can learn about, both like through visiting like professors, faculty, or community events, stuff like that.
Nick, did you have another question for us?
No.
But I do.
Yeah.
I do.
It does.
So have you changed your mind about something because of your experiences at Oberlin, in class or otherwise? What was it and why?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think for me, I changed my mind a lot about myself and how I viewed myself because of my experiences at Oberlin. In high school, things came pretty easily. I didn't have to try very hard to get good enough grades. If I wanted to get an A+, it was a little bit more effort. But, a B+ to an A was something that came naturally to me. But my first semester I took a class that was really outside of my comfort zone, and I didn't do well. That was the first time I had taken a class, like a math class, that I didn't do well in. So for me, I had to think about who I was as a student and what I valued. I also took a Russian class that semester that was also a lot harder than I was sort of anticipating. And I got a tutor for the first time. I had never had a tutor in any of my classes before. And I had to reconcile that fact that there are some things that aren't going to come as naturally to everybody. But I built a relationship with this tutor that still exists to this day. Her name is Sarah. And I learned so much from her, both about Russian and being a student in college, that I'm incredibly grateful for. And I also took a class that semester called Peace and Conflict Studies, which is how I met Kameron, actually.
We weren't even really friends then, though. That's the funny part.
I know. We didn't become friends until second semester.
I can't imagine the two of you not being friends. That just doesn't make sense to me.
And that class was something that I was much more comfortable with, and it's really what convinced me that being a politics major was the right track. I had sort of come in being like, I'm a politics major, but after taking a politics class, I was like, I'm a politics major. Like, this is who I am. This is what I like to do. This is what feels natural to me. So I guess academically, my first semester was an experience that sort of helped me think about myself as a student. And learn some lessons that were tough but valuable.
So have I changed my mind about anything or because of Oberlin? I think when I got here, I changed my mind or rather, I learned how to depend on other people and how to like work well in teams. So a little background: I'm an only child, and my friends tell me I have the persona of an only child, whatever that means.
It's true. It's true.
Meg is also an only child, but
Pick
so I've always kind of like been on my own in a sense. Not that I like do everything on my own, but I've pretty much been of the mindset of like I can do whatever I put my mind to, and haven't always included like other people in that journey. So when I got to Oberlin, I took Intro to International Politics with Eve Sandberg, and right off the bat, she was like, "You're gonna have several group projects because in the real world you work in groups, and so we're gonna prep you for that." And in my head, I'm like, "Oh boy, group projects, like we know how those go." But throughout the duration of the course, I engaged in those projects, and it was a really valuable experience for me because I learned that, like, one, bringing my ego down, like, there are other competent people in the world who can do the things that you do and who can assist you in doing the things you want to do. And kind of like our question earlier, like, do you think one person can change the world? One person can go far, but many people can go even further. And so being able to rely on people in classes or on student senate for various things or in different departments or in different clubs and being able to delegate tasks and to expect things from other people and have those expectations filled and really exceed it has been a valuable part of my learning experience here and something I've changed on a lot.
That's really cool. And that is something that I've learned here too. And I think the principal thing that I've changed my mind on is my view of what a social justice activist looks like. I came from a high school that really prides itself in developing leaders who are going to change the world. So coming to Oberlin and having our mission be think one person can change the world was just like a natural bounce off place from something that I had grown up with, always thinking, like waking up every morning thinking, how do I make the world a better place today? And that's very, very helpful, but also it does put you in a really crazy and unproductive place where you think, okay, so we'll wake up today and we'll end poverty and we'll establish world peace and we'll end the patriarchy and where's the game plan? And you can't do any of that. You can't do all of that because that's not one person's job, but also even as a collective, that's going to be really hard, like all of the ideals that we strive for will take a long, long time to establish, and we have to strive towards that every day. But also recognizing that it's not going to be easy means that you have to recognize that you can't do it on your own and that you can't do every piece of the puzzle. So you have to, it's okay to find your place in the fight towards social justice and do that and stick with that. Like if you're passionate about education, it's okay to just stick with that and become an expert in that. And I mean, that took a long time for me to become comfortable with because I just always felt like I had to do so much more. Just the guilt of knowing, and not even guilt, just feeling a social responsibility to trying everything. And I know now that that's not the most productive way of doing it, but also it's okay to not have to be everything.
I think Oberlin has changed my mind about what it means to like ask for help, and to seek help similar to what you're speaking about. I think we get stretched really thin here, and I think while growing up, I never really was a person to talk about my feelings or talk about how I'm doing or what I need from other people. It's more of like you deal with it and you keep moving forward and like keep pushing forward. But I think Oberlin really stresses like supporting each other in whatever space you're in. People don't ask you if you're okay. They ask you how you're doing. They ask you what they can do to help you if you need help. And I think that's one thing Oberlin has really like helped me work on.
I have a question. So when you all look back at your time at Oberlin in future, what do you want to remember and what do you want to have been a part of that hasn't yet been?
Sorry, what was the last?
What do you want to have been a part of that hasn't yet been?
Oh, okay.
Well, I know when I look back on my time, I really want to remember and think fondly of the relationships I built, whether that be with students, current students, or with alumni I met at during my time at Oberlin, or just various members of the Oberlin community, I think I've built so many strong relationships and just been able to meet so many incredible people that are doing incredible things and that have incredible dreams and passions and desires. My big hope is that once I move forward out into the world, right, that I don't forget about them, but I also don't lose what they gave me, the hope that they gave me, and the passion and the desire to be my best self. And so I really appreciate what everybody here has given me and just being able to spend time with other folks here.
I mean, I have so much I want to remember, but all of it centers around people also and relationships. Like, I want to remember panels like this where I'm reminded just how wonderful my peers are. And I want to remember the late nights we have in Azarias and Mud trying to figure out how to solve like campus conflicts that we have, or the late nights after a very long student senate meeting and all of you are drained, but you're all still there because you believe in what you're doing. And you know, even though it sucks right now, there's a purpose to it and it can do good. Or sometimes you just have classes that go beyond what could possibly be put on the syllabus, and you find yourself all supporting each other or discussing an idea that a student came up with to find a way to make it something real and something big. And your professors supporting that. Like, that's what I want to remember. I want to remember the office hours that I've had that went for like 5 hours. That's actually happened more than once, literally. Because those are the things that remind me why I'm here, and that keep me going, and also that inspire me to be so much more even after I leave Oberlin.
I also want to remember my relationships here at Oberlin. Whether it be the people that I am on Senate with, and we spend a lot of time together, for better or for worse. We fight a lot, just because we have different approaches to solving the same problem. But the fact that we can come into that room and be like, okay, this is my idea, this is what I really want to do, this is what we should do, and someone else saying, well, wait, what about this? And then working through that builds those relationships and those connections in a way that is so valuable, both to who you are as a person and how you can collaborate, but also to the work at hand and how you can make change. Also, the relationships that I build on my field hockey team are so important and will be what I remember the most, because I'm with them for 2 hours every single day, not including meals, not including team bonding, not including travel, and all the time just kind of piles up. And this isn't true for every sports team at Oberlin or for every team in the NCAC or Division III, but my field hockey team is built purely on the foundation of love. We wake up every single day with the same thought in our head of, I love these people, I love this team. We don't win every game. You can check Go-Yo to see our record. It's not fabulous, but I don't care, because the people that I'm doing it with are more important. A win is not a bad thing. I'm not saying that either. I'm not saying I'm complacent towards losing, but I care more about having a family here at Oberlin and having these people around me than I do about, if we're 19-0 that year.
All right, I have a question. It's, how do you engage constructively with an individual who fundamentally disagrees with one of your deeply held beliefs?
That is a hard question, I have to say, but I think it first starts out with approaching it with a sense of genuineness and an open mind as well, because here at Oberlin, like, a lot of people do believe the same things, but you will come across people who don't, and it can be very frustrating and tiring to have conversations with people who sometimes believe things that might diminish your entire existence, which does happen. And some people don't see it that way because they weren't conditioned to see things that certain way. And so I think that just approaching it with an open heart and open mind, and be willing to listen to them and engage with them and have constructive dialogue with them, I think it helps.
I agree. And I think we often think about that person as like a them, like as someone that we don't really know. But I've gotten into huge arguments with people that I'm very very close with about things that we both have very, very like different views on. But I think I think the outcome should be to learn. It shouldn't be like to teach. It should be that we're both learning and engaging in this conversation, because obviously we both really care about it, and it's like important to hear the other side always. I don't really think it's like black and white, and I think just being willing to engage with a person like that, with a friend like that, is good.
I think one of the greatest things I've gotten from the Peace and Conflict Studies concentration is just understanding that conflict is opportunity. Both Nick and Juan both kind of mentions the word engage, and I think that what it comes down to is an engagement between different ideas and different opinions and different thoughts. And while, as Juan said, we do disagree a lot on some things, I think just understanding that conflict in itself is an opportunity to learn, or is an opportunity to learn about someone else's views, or to even strengthen your own, and to understand what you believe a little bit more. And so, like Nick said, there's no easy answer, and I don't even think there's a blanket answer. I kind of happen on a case-by-case basis, because there are some ideas that kind of will diminish your entire identity, or kind of invalidate you as a person. And there are some things that I'm genuinely non-negotiable on, and being able to navigate that is important. But understanding that conflict in itself is an opportunity is where I start.
To go off of that, and I agree with what all of you are saying. I think the most important thing for me, and what's helped me have more productive dialogue with people who are fundamentally very different from me ideologically, is firstly seeing them as people and not the ideas they hold. So not seeing someone as a liberal or a conservative or a leftist or a Republican or Democrat or anything like that, but seeing them as people who have interest in self-preservation. And in trying to figure out why they hold the belief that they do, allowing yourself to understand their primary interest in having that belief. So is this something that feels like an identity thing for them? Like, is this something that feels like changing this belief will diminish who they think they are or who they've been brought up to be? And I mean, a lot of the time I've found that people who hold the most, in my opinion, absurd beliefs have really good reasons for doing that. Like, if that feels like a self-preservation strategy for you, that's an interest that I can understand, even if I may disagree with the way that you're going about establishing that self-preservation. And that's something that we can agree upon. So trying to find like underlying interests in holding the beliefs that we can both agree upon, and trying to negotiate on those interests. So I mean, one of my politics professors, my first year, Dawson, amazing man. He literally changed my life, and he's the reason why I'm a politics major. But he used to teach us that when you're negotiating, like, it's always important to understand what the primary interests of the negotiator are and what they are not willing to compromise on. And usually it's not really like a specific idea that usually sparks the conflicts, but there's something else underlying that idea, and really trying to find those things that lead people to the beliefs that they hold is so important. And that's usually the only way that I've been able to influence people in fundamental beliefs that they've held or been influenced by people. So people who make that effort to understand my underlying interest in the things that I believe and hold.
Is there a last question?
Yeah, so we have time for one more question, and I think Toby has a good one. So what do we have?
So how can we, I think that's the alumni. I'm going to be the alumni. How can we help you? How can the alumni help us in all the things that we're trying to establish here?
Do you want to go?
No, I was just trying to understand the question, but I understand it now. But I guess like being available to help, being available and being a resource to all the students, whether we're still at Oberlin, attending Oberlin or post-grad, I think, because it is a daunting prospect, graduating school and not knowing exactly what you want to do. At least for me, as a fourth year, like, I don't know exactly what I want to do next year, but I think that having options open and having people who can perhaps help me and help me decide what it is that I really want to do, I think would be amazing.
I think the obvious answer is if you can hook us up with a job, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But also, I would say that, like, don't lose faith in us, kind of, that we you went through this whole process too. You were at Oberlin and you know how it is. It can be hard, but I think just continuing to or making an effort to make relationships with us during our time here, and it can be just emailing us for a conversation, just kind of engaging with us and sharing what you've learned here and what you've been learning, because you finish school but you're not done learning, you're still living your life. I think is a big one.
I think I even have two things kind of along similar lines to that. The first one is like, don't talk about us, help us. It can be so easy, like when the Daily Caller is putting out an article about wild Oberlin students, right? You're like, these kids nowadays, when I was at Oberlin, we didn't do this, this, and that. And I'm like, well, that was also a long time ago, and things are different now, and we have different concerns, and things just operate differently. But even going beyond that, seeing what, the news reports or the media may say, seeing that and then asking, well, what's really happening? Because there are Oberlin students, we love to talk, who would be happy to explain to you some of the conflicts that are happening on campus, some of the issues, and to really offer clarity to those, because they're not often portrayed correctly. And so just giving us the opportunity to explain ourselves and to help us with that would be great. And then the second thing is, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot recently, is that OBs do a lot well, but one thing I don't think we do well enough is like celebrate ourselves and what we do and our accomplishments and what we're here to do and how we go about the world. And so I think helping us like celebrate ourselves, because there are Oberlin alums all across the world doing amazing things, trying to make the world a better place, trying to change the world one person at a time. And I think a lot of us are doing that here, and just having a support network of people who are acknowledging what we're doing and kind of encouraging us to go forward would be super helpful, besides jobs.
I want to double down on everything that everyone was saying. I mean, those jobs and internships are great, but also be available to us as mentors. Be available because we share a lot of the same passions, because the things that drive a lot of OBs I found haven't changed over time. Like the way that we go about doing them is different, but it's still the same thing. A lot of the time, people are just striving for social justice in whatever form that is. So be available to us as mentors in the things that we're doing, and help us provide resources if you can, but also provide your time. Just being available to us, I think, will be the most helpful thing. And I'm saying that because I have experienced alumni being available to me, and that has made all the difference in my Oberlin time. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Like, I've had internship opportunities. My winter terms have been enhanced so much more by alumni making themselves available to me. But do that for more students. Like, students shouldn't have to work too hard to access the alumni network. It's something that should be open to us.
My answer is that we're all Oberlin students, right? So we're currently enrolled at Oberlin, but you're an Oberlin student too, right? It's the collective we. And this network that is being built of people who attended Oberlin or graduated from Oberlin, love Oberlin, is built because of times like this and classes you took here, extracurriculars that you were involved in, the relationships that you built while you were on campus, but also off campus. And we're just entering into this network, as in the 5 of us and the 3,000 other students who are on campus right now. And we're entering this world that is really rocky, and our political climate is kind of unstable. And for some of us, it's terrifying what could happen right now. And it's easy to say, oh, well, they're just whiny young kids, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, but we're not, There are issues that we're facing that you're facing too. And there's a reason that we all picked Oberlin. It wasn't some day where you sat and picked a name out of a hat and thought to yourself, okay, I'm going to go to this school. Most of us, it was an intentional purpose to come here and get an education at this institution. So think about why you're a part of the alumni network and why you picked Oberlin, because oftentimes it's the same for all of us. And we want to do the things that you're doing, and you inspire us to and can show us what's possible. And sometimes we don't know what you're doing or all the things that you've accomplished because we don't have a connection or a step in the front door. So making yourself available to all of us so that we can hear your stories and think about what's possible for us shows us that it's going to be okay, and that the world that we're entering into wants us to be there.
Thank you, Meg. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in, essentially for taking the time to listen to us today. And also thank you for your participation in the Virtual Alumni Volunteer Summit.